Imagine a world where rolling is not part of the human experience. Picture a landscape devoid of wheels, a place where no cart ever trundles along a path, no wagon wheel grinds against the soil, and no machinery turns effortlessly to complete a task. In this world, movement is an endeavor of lifting, dragging, and carrying. It is a world where the concept of rolling, as we know it, simply does not exist. In this imagined realm, life unfolds differently. Every journey is a test of endurance, every move a testament to human strength and ingenuity. The absence of rolling forces a reliance on the body's ability to lift and haul, to drag and bear weight across the earth. It is a world where the effort of movement is a constant companion, shaping the very fabric of daily life. Picture a small group of people, their backs bent under the weight of their burdens as they traverse a rugged landscape. Their steps are measured and deliberate, each one a calculation of balance and strength. There are no wheels to ease their load, no smooth rotation to carry them forward with the gentle whisper of progress. Instead, they rely on the power of their muscles and the ingenuity of their minds to navigate the terrain. In this world, distance is not measured in miles or kilometers, but in the strain of muscles and the weariness of limbs. The horizon is not a line to be crossed with ease, but a challenge to be met with determination and resilience. Every step is a reminder of the physical constraints that define existence without the benefit of rolling. As we delve into this alternate reality, let us consider how the absence of rolling shapes the lives of those who inhabit it. How does this lack of smooth movement influence their daily routines, their social structures, and their relationship with the world around them? How does it affect their perception of distance and their understanding of time? These are the questions that will guide us as we explore a world where rolling is a foreign concept, and where the simple act of moving from one place to another is a testament to human endurance and creativity. Before we embark on this journey, may we kindly ask you to share what time it is and where you're listening from in the comments below. And if you find solace and curiosity in our exploration, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue to wander through the realms of thought and history, bringing you more stories of the extraordinary in the ordinary. In a world without the convenience of wheels, the very act of moving from one place to another took on a different significance. The rhythm of life was slower, tethered to the pace set by the human body and the landscape itself. To truly appreciate the ingenuity of our ancestors, let us walk through the pathways they once trod, unburdened by the concept of rolling. Imagine a day in the life of an early human, long before the wheel turned its first revolution. The sun rises gently over the horizon, casting its warm glow on the terrain that stretches out ahead. The body, a marvelous instrument of movement, is our primary vehicle. Walking, the most fundamental form of locomotion, is not just a means to an end, it is an experience in itself. Each step is deliberate, echoing the rhythm of the heart, the cadence of life itself. Carrying, too, becomes an integral part of this journey. The weight of goods, balanced carefully on shoulders or atop heads, serves as a daily reminder of the physical world. Strength and endurance are not abstract concepts, but tangible necessities. Every item, from food to tools, is considered in terms of its weight and the distance it must travel. The body, though capable, has limits, and these limits define the boundaries of daily life. In this pre-wheel era, the use of animals as pack carriers marks a significant advancement. The domestication of creatures like donkeys and llamas offers relief from the burdens of carrying. These animals, with their sturdy frames and uncomplaining demeanor, become essential partners in the journey. They extend the range of human movement and allow for the transport of heavier loads, though always within the confines of the animal's own capacity. Dragging loads over the earth requires its own kind of ingenuity. Simple sledges constructed from available materials are pulled over the ground. This method, though laborious, is a testament to human resourcefulness. The friction between the sledge and the earth is an ever-present challenge, a force to be reckoned with as it resists each pull. Yet, it is through this resistance that strength is honed, and distance is honed, and distances are conquered, one painstaking meter at a time. In this age, distance is not measured in miles or kilometers, but in the effort required to traverse it. A journey of a few miles can become an all-day endeavor, shaped by the landscape's undulations and the body's endurance. Hills and valleys are not mere geographical features. They are obstacles to be negotiated with care and respect. The terrain dictates the pace, and in doing so, it shapes the very fabric of existence. Through these methods, the world is experienced more intimately. The slow passage of time, the feel of the earth beneath one's feet, and the weight of a load upon one's back, all contribute to a profound sense of connection with the environment. There is no rushing from point A to point B. Instead, there is a deep engagement with the journey itself. In a time before maps and navigation tools, the landscape is read through the senses. The position of the sun, the direction of the wind, and the patterns of stars at night guide the way. Routes are remembered through stories passed down through generations, each landmark imbued with meaning and memory. Movement is a communal act, a shared experience that binds people together, shaping their collective identity. This is a world where the journey is as significant as the destination, where movement is an art form perfected over millennia. The absence of wheels does not signify a lack of progress, but rather a different kind of wisdom, one that values the journey itself. It is an existence marked by a profound understanding of the body's capabilities and the landscape's demands. In contemplating this era, we are reminded of the power and grace inherent in simplicity. The body, the earth, and the creatures that share it with us are all part of a delicate balance. Each step taken, each load carried, and each path walked is a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of early humans. In their footsteps, we find a timeless connection to the world, a reminder that even without the wheel, life moved forward with purpose and grace. In considering the limits of human strength, we find ourselves contemplating a world where the body is the primary engine of movement. Picture, if you will, the slow, deliberate pace of an ancient traveler. Laden with personal belongings, perhaps a woven basket filled with tools or a leather sack of provisions, each step is a testament to endurance. The human body, while remarkably adaptable, is bound by limits that shaped the very fabric of early civilization. A healthy adult in prime condition might carry up to a third of their body weight for a short distance. However, the toll of such a burden becomes apparent over longer journeys. Muscles strain, joints protest, and fatigue settles in like an unwelcome fog. The necessity for frequent rest breaks punctuates these journeys, not as interruptions, but as essential rhythms in the dance of survival. Rest, in this context, is not merely a reprieve, but a strategic necessity. It dictates the pace and distance of travel, as much a part of the itinerary as the destination itself. The human body demands intervals of respite to recuperate, to restore energy and spirit. These pauses offer moments of reflection, opportunities to assess one's surroundings and plot the path ahead. In examining the physical constraints on early human movement, we find a narrative of settlements shaped by necessity rather than choice. Villages and communities formed where resources were abundant and within manageable reach. The distance one could reasonably travel in a day without succumbing to exhaustion defined the boundaries of habitation. Proximity to water sources, fertile land, and shelter dictated the placement of these early societies, rather than abstract notions of expansion or conquest. Such constraints fostered a sense of rootedness, a tethering to the land that nurtured and sustained life. The arduous nature of travel meant that communities grew tightly knit, built upon the shared experiences of toil and respite. This closeness forged bonds that were as essential as the physical structures they inhabited. Furthermore, the limitations of human strength influenced the distribution of labor within these communities. Tasks were divided according to capability, with roles evolving to match the demands of survival. The strongest might bear the heaviest loads, while others focused on cultivating the land or crafting tools. This division of labor was not merely a matter of efficiency, but a necessity born from the constraints of human capacity. The fatigue that accompanied physical exertion dictated the rhythms of daily life. Labor-intensive tasks required foresight and planning, with rest periods woven into the fabric of the working day. The cycle of work and rest mirrored the natural rhythms of the world, reflecting the passage of the sun across the sky and the turning of seasons. In understanding these limits, we glimpse the quiet forces that shaped the evolution of early societies. The constraints of human strength dictated the pace of development, curbing the ambition of expansion in favor of sustainability and endurance. This slower tempo allowed for a deeper connection with the land, a harmony with the environment that modernity often overlooks. The physical limits of what a person could carry or accomplish within a given period influenced not just the settlement patterns, but also the very nature of human interaction. Trade, for instance, took on a different character when the cost of moving goods was high. Exchanges were rare and precious, each transaction imbued with significance due to the effort required to facilitate it. As we ponder these limits, we are reminded of the resilience inherent in the human spirit. Despite the constraints of physical strength, early humans demonstrated remarkable ingenuity and adaptability. They found ways to maximize their capabilities, whether through collaboration, innovation, or sheer perseverance. In this reflection on the limits of human strength, we find a narrative of quiet endurance and ingenuity. It is a tale of humanity's intimate relationship with the land and its resources, a story of settlements that grew not from conquest, but from the necessities of survival. These constraints, while limiting, also provided the framework upon which early civilization was built, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who walked the earth long before the wheel set their world in motion. In the quiet tapestry of early human existence, communities emerged not as sprawling entities, but as intimate clusters, nestled closely amidst the landscapes they called home. The world was one of proximity, where every aspect of life was interwoven with the immediate environment. It was a time when human settlements were shaped by the gentle dictates of nature, guiding the rhythms of daily life in ways both subtle and profound. Imagine a village, its boundaries dictated not by walls or borders, but by natural features. A river meandering by, a grove of fruit-bearing trees, or a clearing in the forest that allowed the sun to kiss the earth. These were the parameters within which life unfolded, a delicate dance between human needs and nature's offerings. The close-knit nature of these communities was a simple yet profound acknowledgement of the necessity to stay near the sources of sustenance. Food, the most fundamental of needs, dictated much of this arrangement. In a world where the wheel had not yet lent its effortless motion to transport, the proximity to food sources was not just convenient, it was essential. Fields where grain swayed gently in the breeze were a short walk from homes, and the communal effort of planting and harvesting was a shared experience that reinforced the bonds between people. Where the earth was fertile and water plentiful, settlements thrived, their populations sustained by the bounty of the land. The landscape also dictated the materials available for tool-making and construction. Stone, wood, and clay were gathered from nearby, their availability shaping the tools and structures of daily life. This reliance on local resources fostered a self-sufficiency that was both practical and necessary. Communities were adept at making do with what lay within arm's reach, crafting tools and shelters that reflected the character of the land itself. Trade, as we understand it today, was not absent, but certainly limited by the constraints of distance and the arduous nature of travel. Instead of vast networks spanning continents, trade in these early times was more akin to a gentle ripple across a pond. Small, localized exchanges that enriched life without fundamentally altering its pace. A neighboring village might have a surplus of clay, while another had an abundance of fish, leading to exchanges that were as much about fostering relationships as they were about acquiring goods. The absence of long-distance trade did not equate to a lack of ingenuity or desire for variety. On the contrary, the constraints of geography fostered a creativity born of necessity. People found ways to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, crafting intricate jewelry from bone and shell, or weaving complex patterns into textiles using dyes derived from local plants. These acts of creation were not merely utilitarian, but were expressions of identity and community, each piece a testament to the skills and resources of its maker. Geography and technology, in their quiet partnership, shaped not only the physical arrangements of these communities, but also the social fabric. The close proximity of dwellings meant that social interactions were frequent and unavoidable, weaving a tight-knit tapestry of relationships. In these close quarters, the concept of privacy was different from what we know today. Life was a shared experience with joys and sorrows borne collectively. Decisions were made communally, with the welfare of the group often taking precedence over individual desires. This closeness fostered a deep sense of belonging and identity. Each person had a role, a contribution to the collective well-being, whether it was as a hunter, gatherer, craftsman, or caretaker. The rhythms of life were communal, with festivals and rituals marking the passage of time, reinforcing the ties that bound individuals to one another and to the land they inhabited. In such environments, stories and knowledge flowed freely, passed from generation to generation, ensuring the continuity of culture and tradition. Interestingly, the compact nature of these early settlements also offered a form of resilience. In times of scarcity or hardship, the community could rally together, pooling resources and labor to overcome challenges. This collective approach to problem-solving and survival was a testament to the strength found in unity, a lesson in the power of collaboration that echoes through the ages. As we reflect on these early communities, it becomes clear that their compactness was not merely a limitation imposed by a lack of technology, but a reflection of a deeply interconnected way of life. It was a world where human existence was intimately tied to the land, where every step was taken with the knowledge of its connection to the whole. In this world without the wheel, life was built close together, not just in physical terms, but in the bonds of shared experience and mutual dependence. It was a time when the very act of living was a testament to the enduring power of community. In our exploration of a world before the wheel, we find ourselves peering into the great tapestry of human ingenuity. Imagine, if you will, a landscape where the familiar sound of wheels turning was yet to grace the ears of those who lived and worked upon the land. In such a time, the absence of wheels did not signal a lack of intelligence or ambition, but rather a call to creativity and resourcefulness. People, faced with the challenge of moving objects without the aid of rolling devices, devised methods that were both clever and effective, each one a testament to the human spirit's adaptability. Consider the sledge, an invention born out of necessity. A simple yet elegant solution, the sledge allowed heavy loads to be transported across distances by sliding rather than lifting. A flat platform, sometimes fashioned from wood or bone, would be placed beneath the object to be moved. Then, with the combined effort of several individuals or the strength of domesticated animals, the load would glide over the ground. In snowy or icy terrains, the sledge came into its own, its smooth underbelly reducing friction and allowing for relatively easy passage. But even in less forgiving environments, where earth and rock prevailed, ingenious methods were employed to assist the sledge. Slickened paths or tracks laid with logs could be used to reduce resistance, each movement a calculated dance between man, material, and terrain. Alongside the sledge, the skid offered another variant for movement. Skids, often long and narrow, served as runners beneath large objects. They were particularly useful in transporting elongated items, such as timber or stone, across uneven surfaces. The skid's design required a keen understanding of balance and distribution, ensuring that the load remained stable throughout its journey. It was a solution that demanded not only physical strength, but also a mental map of the landscape and its challenges. Water, too, played a crucial role in pre-wheel transportation. Rivers and lakes provided natural highways that required no paving or clearing. Boats, crafted from hollowed-out logs or constructed from reeds and animal skins, floated gracefully upon these waterways. The art of boat building was one of patience and precision, each vessel a carefully calibrated tool for navigating the currents. For those living near coasts or along riverbanks, these boats were vital, not just as a means of transport, but as facilitators of trade and cultural exchange. They connected communities, allowing for the sharing of goods and ideas long before the wheel would roll its first revolution. In the absence of rivers, human chains became a method of choice. Imagine a line of people, each one connected by the common goal of moving an object from one place to another. It was a method that relied on cooperation and coordination, with each person playing a vital role in the movement of goods. Human chains were not just about physical strength. They were a demonstration of social strength, a reminder that even the seemingly insurmountable could be achieved through collective effort. As we contemplate these methods, it becomes clear that the absence of the wheel was not a barrier to progress. Rather, it was an opportunity for innovation, a challenge that spurred the development of techniques and tools uniquely suited to the environments and resources available. The ingenuity displayed in these early forms of transport speaks to a broader narrative of human adaptation, a story not of limitation, but of potential. Each method, from the humble sledge to the sophisticated boat, reflects a deep understanding of the world. They are solutions born from observation and experimentation, from a willingness to work with the land rather than against it. It is here, in these quiet acts of innovation, that we find the true essence of human ingenuity, a resourcefulness that transcends time and technology, a testament to our enduring capacity to create and adapt. In contemplating this world without wheels, we are invited to appreciate the quiet brilliance of those who came before us. Their solutions, though perhaps less visible than the revolutions of a wheel, remind us of the myriad ways in which humans have navigated the challenges of their environments. As we reflect on their achievements, we gain a deeper understanding of the inventive spirit that continues to drive us forward, in whatever form that may take. In the gentle embrace of the natural world, water courses its way through the landscape, carving paths and shaping terrains, much like time itself. These flowing bodies, whether the mighty river or the tranquil stream, were not just features of the land, but the lifeblood of early human civilization. Long before the wheel turned on its axis, waterways were the silent highways that connected disparate communities, enabling trade, cultural exchange, and the rhythmic pulse of seasonal life. Imagine a world where the land, though vast and inviting, offered challenges that were not easily surmounted. Dense forests, rugged hills, and unyielding plains posed hurdles that the early traveler had to endure. In contrast, rivers and coastlines beckoned with the promise of smooth passage, their currents carrying the dreams and ambitions of those who dared to journey upon them. The river was nature's own road, requiring no construction, no maintenance, just a knowledge of its moods and movements. Settlements naturally clustered along these waterways, drawn by the dual promise of sustenance and connectivity. For the early humans, a river was a source of food and water, its banks fertile and life-giving. Yet, it was also a conduit that led to the unknown, to other peoples and their stories, to lands where different stars lit the night sky. Trading along these water routes was an intricate dance of knowledge and adaptability. Goods that were cumbersome to carry over land could glide effortlessly on the water, borne on simple rafts or dugout canoes. Timber from dense forests, stones from distant quarries, and the myriad artisanal crafts of nascent societies traveled far and wide, expanding the horizons of those who lived by the river's edge. But it was not solely objects that moved along these liquid highways. Ideas, languages, and cultures flowed with the same ease, mingling and merging, creating a tapestry of human experience that was richer for its diversity. In this way, rivers were not just physical connectors, but bridges of the mind and spirit, shaping the very fabric of human civilization. The changing seasons brought their own rhythm to this dance. As winter's grip released its hold, the rivers swelled with meltwater, invigorated and ready to carry the renewed energy of springtime trade. With the coming of summer, the flow might slow, inviting more leisurely exchanges and perhaps even the occasional festival or gathering on the banks, where stories were exchanged as freely as goods. Coastlines, too, played their part. The sea, vast and mysterious, was both a barrier and a gateway. Early mariners, guided by the stars and the knowledge passed down through generations, ventured along the coasts, their small vessels hugging the shorelines as they navigated the briny paths. These brave souls were the pioneers of cultural exchange, their journeys laying the groundwork for what would become the intricate web of trade and communication that spans our world today. It is a testament to human ingenuity that, in the absence of wheeled vehicles, such vibrant networks of exchange could flourish. The very limitations of land travel made the waterway all the more valuable, its importance etched into the social and economic fabric of ancient societies. The river was not merely a means to an end, but a companion in the journey, a silent witness to the unfolding of human history. And so, while the wheel would one day revolutionize how we moved across the earth, it was the water that first carried our aspirations beyond the confines of our immediate world. It taught us that distance could be bridged not just by physical means, but through the shared endeavor of exploration and exchange. In recognizing the significance of these early highways, we gain a deeper appreciation of the role they played in shaping the world as we know it, and the enduring legacy of those who first dared to set sail upon them. In this quiet reflection, we see that the story of movement is not just about the physical act of getting from one place to another. It is about the connections we forge, the knowledge we share, and the ways in which we come to understand our place in the world. Water, in its gentle persistence, reminds us that progress is not always measured by the speed at which we travel, but by the depth of our understanding and the breadth of our connections. In the world of our distant ancestors, the tools of life were simple yet profoundly essential. Imagine, if you will, a time when the materials at hand dictated the boundaries of possibility. Stone, bone, and wood were more than mere resources. They were the cornerstones of existence, each with its unique properties and limitations. These elements, abundant yet requiring skill to shape, set the stage for the rhythm of daily life. Consider the stone, stoic and enduring. Its strength was both a blessing and a challenge. To transform a rough piece of flint or obsidian into a finely honed tool took patience and an intimate understanding of the material. Craftsmen, with nimble fingers and sharp eyes, would strike the stone with precision, flaking away pieces to reveal a functional edge. This process, known as knapping, was as much an art as it was a necessity. The resulting tools, whether axes or arrowheads, were treasured not only for their utility, but also for the skill they represented. Bone, in contrast, offered a different set of qualities. Lighter and more flexible than stone, bone could be fashioned into needles, fishhooks, and other delicate instruments. The crafting of bone required a subtle touch, a dance of careful carving to coax out the desired shape without shattering the piece. The bones used were often those of the animals that had also provided sustenance, a testament to the resourcefulness of early humans and their respect for the life cycles around them. Then there was wood, the most versatile of the trio. Trees, with their myriad forms and functions, offered the promise of both shelter and tools. A branch could be whittled into a spear, a trunk carved into a canoe, each project undertaken with a deep understanding of the wood's grain and its moods. The work was slow, deliberate, and meditative, each shaving of wood a small step towards a practical goal. Yet, for all their utility, these wooden creations were ephemeral, subject to the ravages of time and the elements. The pace of making and repairing tools was dictated by the seasons and the availability of materials. In this pre-industrial world, there was no rush, no pressing deadline beyond the rhythms of nature itself. A tool might take days or even weeks to fashion, and when it finally took shape, it was imbued with a sense of accomplishment and an assurance of survival. Repairs were a constant part of life, too. A broken handle or a chipped blade would be meticulously restored, extending the life of these vital implements. The act of repair was a reminder of the interconnectedness between people and their environment, a dance of preservation and renewal. In a time before mass production, objects were prized not just for their functionality, but for the effort and skill invested in their creation. Each tool, each object held a story of its own, of the person who had shaped it, of the materials from which it was made, and of the challenges it had helped overcome. Such items were not disposable. They were companions on the journey of life, passed down through generations, each bearing the marks of use and care. In these tools, we see a mirror of the society that crafted them, a society attuned to the natural world, patient and observant. The value of an object was not measured in currency, but in the labor it saved, the tasks it accomplished, and the lives it sustained. In this way, the tools of stone, bone, and wood were more than mere implements. They were extensions of human will and ingenuity, symbols of an enduring relationship with the earth and its bounty. As we reflect on this era, we are reminded of a time when the pace of life was dictated not by the ticking of a clock, but by the cycles of the sun and the seasons. The making and mending of tools was a rhythm as natural as breathing, a fundamental part of existence that connected one generation to the next. In these acts, there was a profound understanding of balance between creation and consumption, between use and renewal. In this quiet reflection, we are invited to consider the true value of the objects around us, to appreciate the skill and effort that lies behind their creation. The tools of our ancestors, though primitive by today's standards, were the foundation upon which all future innovations were built. They remind us of a time when every item had a purpose, a history, and a place in the narrative of human life. Thus, as we ponder the simple elegance of stone, bone, and wood, we see not only the tools themselves, but the echoes of a world in which they played a vital role. A world where every crafted piece was a testament to human resilience and creativity. A world that laid the groundwork for all that was to come. In the world we are exploring, There is a certain rhythm to daily life that pulses gently, like the steady beat of a heart. It is a world unhurried by the ticking of clocks or the whirring of machines. Here, the labor of hands, the sweat of brows, and the firm patience of human endeavor define the passage of time. Each day begins with the rising sun, casting a golden light over fields and homes, and ends with the setting sun, leaving a sense of quiet accomplishment in its wake. In the fields, where farming is the lifeblood of survival, the work is both demanding and ceaseless. Without the aid of rotating mechanisms, the tasks of tilling, sowing, and harvesting are done by hand, with tools crafted from wood and stone. Each tool, though simple, is an extension of the body, bridging the gap between human intent and the stubborn earth. The soil is turned with a hoe, its wooden handle worn smooth by countless hours of work. Seeds are sown by hand, each one a small promise of future sustenance, dropped into neat rows carved by fingers and simple hand tools. The act of farming is an intimate dance with nature, requiring an acute awareness of weather, seasons, and the subtle shifts in the earth itself. It is a labor that demands patience, as crops grow not by the urgency of human desires, but by the slow and steady rhythms of the natural world. Farmers rise with the dawn to coax life from the soil, their days marked by the sun's arc across the sky. The heat of midday offers a brief respite, a time to rest weary limbs and refresh the spirit before the afternoon's toil resumes. Building shelters and homes is equally demanding. Without cranes or pulleys, each structure is crafted through sheer human effort. Stones are lifted and placed one by one, their weight a constant reminder of the strength required to shape them into walls and foundations. Wooden beams are cut and carved, their fit determined by the eye and skill of the builder, not by precise machinery. The process is slow, each stage of construction a testament to the perseverance and ingenuity of those who undertake it. It is a communal effort, with neighbors joining forces to erect new homes or repair old ones, their combined labor forging bonds that are as strong as the structures they build. Food preparation, too, is a task that demands time and energy. Without the convenience of modern appliances, meals are crafted with care and attention. Grains are ground by hand using stones, the rhythmic motion of grinding a meditative task that transforms raw kernels into fine flour. This flour becomes bread, baked in communal ovens, the smell of fresh loaves mingling with the air. Each meal is a reflection of the labor and love that went into its creation, a moment of shared sustenance that draws families and communities together. In this world, work is not simply a means to an end, it is a way of life. The absence of mechanical advantage imbues each task with a sense of purpose and connection. Labor is not merely physical exertion, but a dialogue with the environment, a negotiation between human will and the constraints of the natural world. It is repetitive and exhausting, yet deeply fulfilling, grounding people in the present moment and anchoring them to the land they cultivate and the communities they sustain. The seasons dictate the flow of work, each bringing its own set of challenges and rewards. Spring is a time of planting, of renewal and hope, as fields are sown with the promise of future harvests. Summer demands vigilance, as crops require tending and protection from pests and storms. Autumn is a time of abundance, of gathering the fruits of labor and preparing for the leaner months ahead. Winter offers a pause, a time to reflect and plan, to mend tools and weave new garments, to tell stories by the fire and dream of the year to come. This cyclical pattern of work and rest, of effort and reward, fosters a deep connection to the land and to each other. It shapes societies that are resilient and adaptable, capable of thriving in the face of adversity. It is a world where the boundaries between work and life blur, where each action is imbued with meaning and each day is a testament to human endurance and ingenuity. As we reflect on this world without mechanical advantage, we see a tapestry of human experience woven from the threads of daily toil. It is a reminder of the strength and resourcefulness that reside within us, of the power of community and the resilience of the human spirit. And in this reflection, we find a quiet appreciation for the simplicity and beauty of a life lived in harmony with the rhythms of the natural world. In a world untouched by the relentless ticking of modern clocks, time was a vast, expansive ocean rather than the regimented stream we recognize today. Tasks took longer, perhaps, but they were not measured against the exacting standards of efficiency that dictate our present lives. Instead, every task was a journey, each step a part of a larger rhythm dictated by the sun, the seasons, and the natural world. Consider the simple act of baking bread. Today, we might measure our flour by the gram, set a timer for the dough to rise, and bake at a precisely controlled temperature. But in the distant past, bread was a product of intuition and patience. Flour was ground slowly between stones, a laborious process that demanded both strength and time. The dough was left to rise not according to a clock, but to the ambient warmth and the mysterious workings of wild yeast. Baking was an art, not a formula, and delays were simply part of the process. The bread would be ready when it was ready, and not a moment before. This approach extended far beyond the kitchen. In the fields, farmers sowed their seeds in accordance with the cycles of the moon and the shifting patterns of the stars. The harvest was an event marked not on a calendar, but by the ripening of the grain and the changing color of the leaves. If rain delayed the reaping, so be it. Nature was the ultimate arbiter of time, and human schedules bowed to its authority. In such a world, planning was inherently seasonal rather than hourly. The concept of a deadline was foreign. Instead, there was a sense of natural progression and a trust in the cyclical nature of life. Winter was a time of rest and reflection, a period when the earth lay dormant, and so too did its people. Spring brought renewal, a burst of energy and activity as fields were plowed and seeds planted. Summer demanded diligence as crops required tending, and autumn was a time of bountiful harvest and preparation for the coming cold. Delays, when they occurred, were not met with frustration but with acceptance. The storm that halted a journey might be seen as a sign to pause and reflect, an opportunity to gather stories around a fire or to mend tools and nets. The mindset of the time was one of patience, of understanding that some things took the time they needed, and no more. The rush of modern life, with its constant reminders of minutes lost and deadlines looming, was yet to impose its tyranny on the human spirit. This is not to say that life was leisurely or without its pressures. Indeed, survival was a constant concern, and the stakes were often high. But there was a profound difference in how time was perceived and utilized. Tasks were approached with a sense of presence, an understanding that each moment was part of a larger whole. The notion of multitasking, of dividing one's attention between competing demands, was unknown. Instead, focus was singular and complete, whether one was crafting a tool, weaving a basket, or tending to the health of a loved one. In this slower, more deliberate world, there was a kind of freedom in the absence of efficiency. People were not bound by the relentless pursuit of productivity for productivity's sake. Instead, accomplishments were measured by their necessity and their alignment with the rhythms of life. A task completed was a moment to be savored, a testament to skill and perseverance rather than a tick on a checklist. This patience, this gentle acceptance of time's slow passage, was woven into the fabric of everyday life. Community gatherings were not hurried affairs, but lingered over, stories shared and songs sung until the embers faded. Meals were occasions for togetherness, not rushed through in the pursuit of other goals. Even the simplest of tasks was imbued with a sense of presence and purpose, a testament to the belief that life was to be lived, not merely managed. As we reflect on this ancient patience, we might find ourselves longing for its quiet wisdom. In a world where efficiency often trumps experience, there is much to learn from those who came before us. They remind us that not everything can be rushed, that some things indeed are worth waiting for, and that time, though it marches ever forward, is not an adversary but a companion on our journey. In their world, time was a friend, not a foe, and in recognizing this, perhaps we too can find a measure of peace amidst the hurried pace of modern life. In an age where the hum of engines and the rhythmic clatter of wheels is ubiquitous, it requires a gentle stretch of the imagination to envision a world where trade and exchange occurred without the assistance of carts. Yet, there was indeed such a time when humans, resourceful and tenacious, navigated the intricate dance of commerce through means far removed from our current understanding of commerce, through means far removed from our current Indian. The trade networks of pre-wheel societies were delicate webs, spun with care and constrained by the geographical realities of the land. Movement was bound by the sinews of human strength and the capriciousness of nature. Without the ease of wheels to bear the burden, every journey was a calculated endeavor, each step measured against the weight of the cargo and the endurance of the bearer. In this world, the exotic was not merely distant, it was miraculous. Goods that traveled from far-off lands carried with them the stories of their origin, whispers of cultures that seemed as otherworldly as the moon. Spices, shimmering silks, and precious stones were not just commodities but treasures, their rarity imbuing them with a value that transcended their physical form. They were symbols of distant lands, tangible connections to places that existed beyond the horizon of daily life. The high cost of movement, then, was not just a matter of physical exertion, but of economic consequence. Every item that traversed the landscape did so at a toll, a price exacted by the laborious journey it endured. This cost was not merely monetary, but intrinsic, woven into the very fiber of the goods themselves. It was this intrinsic value, born of scarcity and effort, that shaped the way societies perceived wealth and exchange. The absence of wheels meant that trade was often local, confined to the immediate surroundings where the familiar met the necessary. It was a world where the rhythm of commerce was dictated by the natural cadence of the land, a gentle ebb and flow rather than the frenetic pace of modern trade. Markets were vibrant but intimate affairs, where transactions were as much about social interaction as they were about economic necessity. In regions blessed with navigable waters, rivers became the arteries of trade, their currents guiding boats laden with goods along routes that were as ancient as the hills. Here, the river was a silent partner in commerce, its flow a dependable ally that eased the burden of land travel. Yet even on these watery highways, the limits of human ingenuity and the absence of mechanical advantage meant that trade remained a measured affair. The scarcity of exotic goods, their journey arduous and their arrival uncertain, meant that they were often reserved for the elite, those who could afford the luxury of rarity. These items, whether they were delicate fabrics or fragrant spices, became status symbols, their possession a mark of distinction and power. The very fact of their scarcity was a testament to the effort required to obtain them, a silent acknowledgement of the vast distances and the many hands through which they passed. Yet, in this world without carts, trade was not solely the domain of the rich. The exchange of goods was a fundamental aspect of social life, a binding force that connected communities. Barter systems thrived, with local produce and crafted items forming the backbone of everyday commerce. Here, value was a communal understanding, a shared notion that went beyond the mere exchange of goods to encompass relationships and trust. As we reflect on this era, it becomes clear that the absence of wheels did not equate to a lack of sophistication or intelligence. Rather, it was a testament to human adaptability, to the ability to innovate within the boundaries of what was possible. The ingenuity of these early societies lay not in what they lacked, but in how they maximized the resources at their disposal, crafting a world where trade was as much about human connection as it was about goods. In considering this, we see that the wheel, when it eventually arrived, did not merely change the mechanics of movement, but transformed the very fabric of trade. It expanded horizons, altered perceptions of distance, and reshaped the economic landscapes. But before this revolution, there existed a world where trade was an art, a delicate balance of effort and exchange. It was a world where scarcity was a reality, and the value of goods was a reflection of the human spirit that transported them. As we draw our minds back to the present, let us not forget this chapter of human history. The absence of carts did not hinder the spirit of trade. Rather, it highlighted the resilience and creativity of our ancestors. In their footsteps, we find a legacy of innovation and determination, a testament to the enduring nature of human enterprise. In the quiet tapestry of human history, the emergence of settlements, villages, and early cities unfolds with a slow and deliberate grace. This is not a tale of swift development or sudden transformation, but rather a story woven with patience, shaped by the steady rhythm of human endeavor and the natural world. It is a narrative of communities building themselves up from modest beginnings, expanding gradually within the gentle confines of their environment and the resources available to them. Imagine, if you will, a time when the notion of a city was but a distant dream. In these early years, humans gathered in small clusters, their lives intimately tied to the land they inhabited. These settlements were not strategically planned marvels, but organic creations, born from necessity and nurtured by the hands of those who called them home. They were places where the physical limitations of human strength and the availability of resources dictated the scope and size of the community. In these early days, the land itself laid down the rules of expansion. Geography acted as both a guide and a barrier. Rivers and fertile plains beckoned, offering sustenance and ease of movement, while mountains and dense forests whispered caution, their rugged terrain challenging the path of progress. The boundaries of these settlements were not marked by the ambitions of their inhabitants, but by the gentle, unyielding forces of nature. The landscape dictated where a village might grow and how far it might stretch before meeting its natural limits. Infrastructure, as we understand it today, was a concept in its infancy. Paths worn by countless footsteps connected homes and fields, a network of trails that spoke of daily journeys and shared labor. The simplicity of these routes belied their significance, for they were the lifelines of these early communities, connecting the people not only to each other, but to the wider world beyond their immediate horizon. Within these settlements, the architecture was humble yet functional. Structures were crafted from materials readily available: wood, mud, stone, each building a testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of its builders. These were not grand edifices, but shelters that provided warmth and protection, their designs born from necessity rather than aesthetics. The dwellings were often clustered close together, forming a tight-knit fabric of human habitation that mirrored the interconnectedness of the community itself. As villages began to grow, the rhythm of life was dictated by the seasons. The cycle of sowing and harvest, of abundance and scarcity, set the tempo for existence. This rhythm was mirrored in the social structure of these early settlements, where roles and responsibilities were clearly defined, each person contributing to the well-being of the whole. The village thrived on cooperation and mutual dependence, a delicate balance that ensured survival in a world where resources were precious and time moved with a different kind of urgency. Trade, though limited, became a thread that wove these communities into a larger tapestry. Goods moved slowly from one settlement to another, carried by traders who walked the ancient paths, their journeys long and arduous. These exchanges were not just of material possessions, but also of ideas and knowledge, a quiet flow that enriched the lives of all who participated. Yet, the scale of trade was modest, the distances traversed short. The world was a much smaller place, defined by what could be reached on foot or by simple craft. The notion of a city, in contrast, represented a different paradigm, one that would slowly emerge as populations grew and societies evolved. Cities required a new way of thinking, a departure from the organic growth of villages to something more structured and deliberate. They needed infrastructure to support larger populations, systems for managing resources, and spaces for trade and governance. But for now, these concepts remained distant, the seeds of urbanization yet to take root in the fertile soil of human imagination. The growth of these early settlements was a gradual process, a reflection of the cautious dance between human ambition and the constraints of the natural world. Expansion was not driven by a desire for greatness, but by the simple need to accommodate more people, to find new fields to cultivate, and to ensure the continued survival of the community. It was a measured progression, one step at a time, each decision carefully weighed against the resources at hand and the challenges of the environment. In this era, the simplicity of life was both a limitation and a blessing. The absence of complex infrastructure and the modest scale of trade meant that communities were inherently connected to the land around them. They lived within their means, their lives, a testament to the art of making do with what was available. This simplicity fostered a closeness among people, a shared understanding of the challenges they faced and the joys they celebrated. As we reflect on these early settlements, it is not the grandeur of cities that captures the imagination, but the quiet dignity of communities building a life together. It is a story of resilience and adaptation, of finding balance within natural limits, and of the slow, steady march of progress. These villages and early cities were the foundations upon which the future would be built, the first steps in a journey that would eventually lead to the bustling metropolises of the modern world. Yet, in their simplicity, they remind us of the enduring human spirit, the ability to create and sustain life in harmony with the world around us. In the quiet cadence of early human innovation, long before the wheel became emblematic of progress, there existed a more subtle dance of observation and experimentation. Imagine, if you will, a time when the Earth's rhythms were mirrored more closely in human endeavor, and the concept of rolling resided not in the realm of technology, but in the patient hands of those who sought to ease their burdens with the simplest of means. Consider the log, that ancient sentinel of the forest, lying across the ground in quiet readiness. To the observant eye, it was more than a mere fallen tree. It was a tool waiting to be discovered. When heavy stones or cumbersome loads needed moving, the log whispered its potential. By placing it beneath the weight, men and women found they could coax their burdens to slide rather than drag, the log turning beneath the load, transforming resistance into smooth motion. This was a rudimentary rolling, a gentle nudge towards a future innovation that lay as yet unfathomed. Such ingenuity was born not from a lack of sophistication, but from an intimate understanding of their environment. Early humans were attuned to the subtle interplay between object and surface, between force and friction. They observed how a round stone moved differently from a jagged one, how a wet surface could turn an arduous drag into a manageable slide. They were guided by necessity and inspired by the natural world, their inventions reflecting a deep-seated harmony with their surroundings. In some communities, rotating platforms emerged as another precursor to the wheel. Imagine a flat, circular stone or wooden disc upon which objects could be placed. By applying a gentle push, the platform would rotate, allowing for easier access or movement. This was not yet the wheel, but it was a forebear, a simple yet profound tool that hinted at the untapped potential of circular motion. It was through these small yet significant steps that the concept of rolling began to take root in the human psyche. Spinning tools, too, spoke of nascent understanding. The spindle, used in the creation of thread, harnessed the power of rotation long before it was applied to transportation. By twisting fibers into yarn through a spinning motion, early humans were practicing a form of rotational technology, albeit on a different scale. These tools were the quiet ancestors of the wheel, whispering of possibilities yet to come. It is crucial to recognize that these developments were not the sudden flashes of inspiration often romanticized in tales of invention. They were the result of centuries of observation, trial, and incremental improvement. The idea of rolling was not discovered. It was slowly uncovered, layer by layer, as humans interacted with their environment in ever more sophisticated ways. As we reflect on these early innovations, it becomes clear that the leap from dragging to rolling required not only a change in technology, but a shift in mindset. It demanded a reimagining of what was possible, a willingness to see the familiar in a new light. Logs, platforms, and spinning tools were more than mere objects. They were the harbingers of a revolution in movement, each contributing a piece to the puzzle that would one day be assembled into the wheel. In contemplating these first rolling ideas, we are reminded of the profound simplicity at the heart of human progress. It is easy to overlook the elegance of these early solutions, to dismiss them as primitive when viewed through the lens of modern technology. Yet, they represent a moment of quiet genius, a testament to the creativity and resourcefulness of our ancestors. The journey towards the wheel was not a straight path, nor was it an inevitable one. It was a winding road, marked by experimentation and adaptation, by the willingness to learn from the world around us. In these early rolling ideas, we see the seeds of an idea that would one day transform the world, not through a sudden spark of insight, but through the slow and steady accumulation of knowledge. As we ponder the origins of rolling, we are invited to reflect on the nature of innovation itself. It is a reminder that progress is often a gradual unfolding, a series of small steps rather than great leaps. By honoring these early pioneers, we pay tribute to the enduring human spirit that seeks to understand and improve, one rotation at a time. In the vast tapestry of human history, there is a modest thread that weaves through time with quiet significance, the emergence of the wheel. It begins in the ancient cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, a region nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, amidst the fertile plains and burgeoning city-states, the wheel would slowly make its first appearance, not as a tool for transport, but as a humble aid in the art of pottery. Imagine, if you will, a potter hunched over their work, the clay spinning rhythmically upon a simple, round platform. This was the potter's wheel, a device that appeared around 3500 BCE. It was a revelation in its own right, allowing artisans to craft pots with a symmetry and speed previously unattainable. With each spin, the potter could shape the clay into ever more intricate forms, bringing both utility and beauty to the daily lives of their community. This was the wheel's first incarnation, a silent revolution in creativity and craft. The potter's wheel was not a transport device, nor was it intended to be. It was, however, the seed of an idea, the first step in a lineage of innovation that would one day alter the very fabric of human existence. Its circular motion was a concept that would take time to migrate into other realms of human endeavor. The notion of using circular motion to make tasks easier was a profound insight, yet its application to transport would not occur swiftly. Mesopotamia, often regarded as the birthplace of civilization, was a landscape of thinkers and innovators. The Sumerians, one of the earliest known civilizations in this region, are often credited with several firsts in human history. They developed writing, built monumental architecture, and conducted trade across their lands and beyond. Yet, for all their advancements, the wheel as a means of transport did not immediately follow the inception of the potter's wheel. This delay was not due to a lack of ingenuity, but rather the complexities and constraints of adapting such an idea to the world of movement and load-bearing. The terrain of Mesopotamia was varied, with soft, muddy grounds in places that could hinder wheeled transport. Roads, as we think of them today, did not exist, and the concept of constructing pathways specifically for wheeled vehicles was yet to be imagined. Moreover, the materials available for constructing durable, load-bearing wheels were limited. Wood, while accessible, required treatment and craftsmanship to be shaped into something reliable enough to bear loads over long distances. The leap from crafting a small, manageable potter's wheel to designing a large, robust wheel for transport was not insignificant. Despite these challenges, the idea of the wheel began to simmer in the collective imagination of Mesopotamian society. Gradually, the concept evolved. By around 30,000 BCE, we find evidence of the wheel being used in a new context, the transport of goods. This transition was not a sudden leap, but rather a slow adaptation facilitated by incremental improvements in materials and methods. The earliest transport wheels were likely solid wooden discs with a hole in the center for an axle. These wheels were heavy and cumbersome, suitable for short distances and flat terrain. They were attached to simple carts that could be pulled by humans or animals, allowing for the movement of goods in a way that was previously unimaginable. This innovation did not immediately revolutionize transport, but it did lay the groundwork for future developments. In examining the gradual adoption of the wheel, one must also consider the cultural and social factors at play. Mesopotamian society was structured around its river systems, with much of its trade and communication occurring via waterways. Boats and rafts were the primary means of moving goods over long distances, a testament to the importance of water-based travel in this early era. The wheel, therefore, complemented rather than replaced existing methods of transport. It found a niche in localized movements where waterways could not reach, slowly becoming integral to the logistical tapestry of daily life. The spread of the wheel beyond Mesopotamia was equally gradual. As the concept traveled, it encountered different environments, each presenting unique challenges and opportunities. The diffusion of this technology was a testament to human adaptability as communities modified and refined the wheel to suit their specific needs. It is important to note that the invention of the wheel was not attributed to a single individual or moment. Rather, it was a collective achievement, born from the incremental contributions of many minds over time. This process of gradual refinement and adoption highlights a fundamental aspect of technological progress, that innovation is often evolutionary rather than revolutionary. As the wheel began to find its place in society, it did so quietly and without fanfare. It was not heralded as a grand invention, nor did it immediately transform the world. Instead, it became a part of the everyday, a tool that slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to alter the rhythms of work and life. In this way, the emergence of the wheel in Mesopotamia is a story of patience and persistence, a reminder that the seeds of change are often sown long before their fruits are fully realized. The wheel's journey from a potter's tool to a cornerstone of civilization is a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity. It is a tale of slow, steady progress, one that continues to roll through the annals of history, shaping the world in ways both great and small. In our exploration of human innovation, few symbols loom as large as the wheel. It conjures images of progress and ingenuity, yet its initial journey was far from the swift revolution we might imagine. Indeed, the wheel took a surprisingly long time to matter in the grand tapestry of civilization, facing a host of obstacles that delayed its widespread adoption. To begin with, let us consider the terrain. The world, as we know it, isn't uniformly flat or paved. Much of early human history unfolded in landscapes that were rugged and uneven. Imagine a valley with its jagged rocks, dense forests with their entangled roots, or a sprawling desert with shifting sands. These environments were less than ideal for the smooth rolling of wheels. In such settings, the wheel's advantages were not immediately apparent, for the effort required to clear and maintain pathways that could accommodate wheeled vehicles was immense. Without established roads, the wheel was at a disadvantage. The creation of roads is a considerable task, one requiring not only labor but foresight and cooperation. Prior to the wheel's invention, societies had little incentive to invest in such infrastructure, as their existing methods of transport sufficed for their needs. Roads, in their infancy, were more akin to well-trodden paths, shaped by the footsteps of countless travelers. They were narrow, winding, and frequently interrupted by natural obstacles. Only with the gradual realization of the wheel's potential did the concept of dedicated roadways begin to emerge. Then there was the matter of harnessing animals to these early wheels. Domestication had already provided humanity with valuable allies in the form of horses, oxen, and other beasts of burden. Yet, the leap from riding or using these animals for carrying loads to effectively hitching them to a wheeled cart was not a straightforward transition. Animal harnesses had to be invented and refined, a process of trial and error that spanned centuries. The harness systems we now take for granted, bridles, yokes, traces, came from long observation and understanding of animal behavior and anatomy. Moreover, the materials available at the time posed a significant challenge. Early wheels were typically made of wood, a material that, while plentiful, had its limitations. Wooden wheels were prone to splintering and warping, particularly when subjected to the stresses of rough terrain and varying climates. The wheel's construction was not merely a matter of cutting a circle from a tree trunk. It required skilled craftsmanship to ensure durability and balance. As metallurgy advanced, the introduction of metal fittings and the eventual development of iron and steel rims would enhance the wheel's robustness. However, these innovations were slow to trickle through different societies, each with its own pace of technological evolution. Cultural factors also played a role in the wheel's slow adoption. In some societies, the social and economic structures were such that the wheel offered little perceived benefit. Where labor was abundant and inexpensive, or where existing methods of transport were deeply integrated into daily life and trade, the wheel was not immediately seen as a necessity. It is a testament to the complexity of human society that what might seem an obvious improvement could be met with indifference or skepticism. Furthermore, the wheel's initial applications were largely confined to specific tasks. The potter's wheel, for instance, predates the use of the wheel for transport and was instrumental in the production of ceramics. Its utility was evident in the controlled environment of the workshop, yet its transition to broader use in transportation required a shift in perspective, a reimagining of the wheel's potential. In the context of early civilizations, the spread of any new technology was inherently gradual. Societies were often insular, and the exchange of ideas and techniques was limited by geography and language. The diffusion of the wheel was no exception. It passed through the hands of traders, conquerors, and travelers who carried knowledge across borders and through time. This gradual diffusion meant that the wheel's adoption was staggered across different regions, each adapting the technology to suit local needs and circumstances. Thus, the wheel's journey from novelty to necessity was a slow and uneven one. It was shaped by the natural world, constrained by human understanding, and molded by the social fabrics of the time. In overcoming these obstacles, the wheel eventually found its place in the world, revolutionizing transport and industry. Yet, it is crucial to appreciate the nuanced and multifaceted path it took to arrive at such importance. The wheel did not simply roll into history. It was carried, coaxed, and crafted into the cornerstone of progress it would become. In the gentle unfolding of human ingenuity, there comes a moment where the simplicity of an idea belies its profound impact. The earliest carts and wagons, humble wooden constructs, emerged not as revolutionary inventions, but as tentative steps into a new paradigm of movement. These rudimentary vehicles were born from the slow accretion of knowledge, from the gradual understanding of materials and mechanics, and from a quiet curiosity about the possibilities of rolling. Picture a small settlement on the fertile plains of ancient Mesopotamia, where the land is rich, but the toil is endless. Here, the first carts were likely assembled. Made from simple wooden planks, these early designs were not yet the robust vehicles of later centuries. They were fragile and experimental, their construction a delicate dance of balance and weight. The wheels, solid and cumbersome, were cut from tree trunks, their uneven surfaces a stark reminder of the limitations of early craftsmanship. The axles, often a single piece of wood, were fixed to the cart in a manner that allowed the wheels to rotate around them. This was no mean feat, as the friction between wheel and axle required careful consideration. Animal fat or plant oils might have been used as primitive lubricants, easing the rotation and reducing wear. These components, though simple in theory, demanded a new level of precision and understanding from the artisans of the time. The carts were predominantly used for short distances, their fragile nature making them unsuitable for the rugged terrain beyond the immediate vicinity of settlements. They were drawn by animals, oxen, donkeys, perhaps even early domesticated horses, whose strength was harnessed through rudimentary harnesses and yokes. Yet, even with these aids, the carts were limited by the very environments they sought to traverse. Uneven ground, rocky paths, and unyielding mud presented significant challenges, often proving insurmountable for the early wheels. These vehicles were not ubiquitous by any means. Their presence was sporadic, their use limited to specific tasks that justified the effort of their construction. Transporting harvests from fields to settlements, moving goods within market areas, or assisting in construction projects. Here, the carts found their place. Yet for many tasks, the traditional methods of carrying and dragging remained more reliable. In this experimental phase, the carts and wagons were as much a curiosity as a tool. They represented a nascent understanding of mechanics, a tentative foray into exploiting the principles of leverage and rotation. The artisans and thinkers of the time would have observed the movement of these carts with a mixture of fascination and skepticism, testing their limits and pondering their potential. Improvements were gradual. The early wheels, initially solid discs, began to evolve. artisans realized that by cutting sections out of the wheel, reducing its weight while maintaining its strength, they could create a more efficient design. This led to the spoked wheel, a significant advancement that allowed for easier movement and greater durability. However, the adoption of these innovations was slow. Cultural inertia, the difficulty of obtaining suitable materials, and the ever-present challenge of terrain hindered widespread use. The early carts and wagons did not immediately transform societies. They were instead a quiet undercurrent of change, whispering possibilities rather than shouting revolutions. It is worth reflecting on the cautious nature of this transformation. Human societies have often been slow to embrace change, especially when it demands a rethinking of established methods. The early carts and wagons required new skills and new ways of working with animals. They necessitated an understanding of maintenance and repair, of how to keep the moving parts moving without succumbing to the relentless pull of friction and wear. In this period of experimentation, the carts and wagons served as a bridge between the old and the new. They did not replace the traditional methods of transport, but rather complemented them, offering an alternative that was still finding its place in the tapestry of daily life. They were a promise of what might be possible, a hint at a future where distance was less a barrier and more an invitation to explore. For those who crafted and used these early vehicles, there was perhaps a sense of participating in something larger than themselves. Each creak of the wooden wheels, each successful journey, would have carried with it the weight of potential. The carts and wagons were not just tools. They were embodiments of human curiosity, a tangible expression of the desire to understand and shape the world. As we imagine these early scenes, it is not difficult to see the seeds of future developments being sown. The first carts and wagons were a testament to the power of small steps, to the idea that progress is often a series of gentle nudges rather than great leaps. They remind us that even the most modest of innovations can, in time, change the trajectory of history, setting humanity on paths previously unimagined. And so, as we reflect on these early experiments in rolling, we are reminded of the quiet persistence of human creativity. The first carts and wagons may not have been heralded as marvels of their age, but they were a beginning that invites us to consider not only what was, but what might yet be achieved through patience, ingenuity, and the unending wonder of discovery. In the quiet tapestry of human history, the wheel did not announce its presence with fanfare or grand proclamations. Instead, it began to whisper subtle transformations into the fabric of daily life. Imagine, if you will, the gradual weaving of a new thread into an ancient cloth, almost imperceptible at first, yet over time, altering the entire pattern. As communities adapted to this new technology, the wheel began to play a modest but pivotal role in the routines of ordinary people. Its early adoption did not revolutionize society overnight. Rather, it gently nudged the familiar rhythms of life, allowing for slightly larger loads to be moved from one place to another. Where before, a person or animal might have been able to transport only what could be carried on their back or dragged behind them, now carts and wagons introduced a new dimension of capacity. Goods, tools, and materials could be shifted with less strain, and the sheer physical effort that had previously defined transport was gradually alleviated. Journeys once constrained by the limits of human or animal endurance began to stretch further afield. The wheel extended the reach of the traveler, enabling longer distances to be covered without the same degree of exhaustion. Roads, initially little more than well-trodden paths, began to accommodate the rolling of wheels, albeit slowly and with some resistance from the terrain. The landscape itself seemed to respond, as though it too was adjusting to this new mode of movement. In these early days, the wheel did not so much replace existing methods of transport as it complemented them. Sledges and skids continued to be used in places where wheels struggled, particularly over rough or uneven ground. Yet, as paths were worn smoother by the passage of wheels, the notion of distance itself began to change. What was once a formidable journey became merely a long day's work, and people began to perceive their world in slightly larger terms. The rhythm of work underwent a subtle shift as well. With the ability to transport more goods came the need to produce more, and thus the wheel became intertwined with the cycles of labor. Markets, once small and localized, began to see an influx of goods from further afield. Craftspeople and farmers found themselves part of a slowly expanding web of trade, where the movement of goods was facilitated by the rolling of wheels. This did not happen all at once, but unfolded over generations, as the wheel became an indispensable part of the economic landscape. As this technology spread, it was not merely the physical world that expanded. The psychological landscape of those early societies began to shift as well. New possibilities emerged in the collective imagination, where the idea of what could be achieved or acquired seemed to grow with each turn of the wheel. Skilled craftsmen, who had once been limited by the availability of local resources, found new markets for their wares. Farmers could transport surplus produce to neighboring settlements, fostering a nascent sense of interdependence among communities. The wheel's introduction gently encouraged a more dynamic interplay between work and travel. It was as though the world had subtly shifted gears, moving from a slow and steady pace to one with the potential for more varied tempos. The wheel did not eliminate the need for manual labor, but it did begin to redefine what was possible within a day's work. Tasks that once required entire groups of people could now be accomplished by fewer individuals with the aid of a simple cart. Yet this transformation was not uniform across all societies. In some regions where the terrain remained unforgiving or resources scarce, the wheel's impact was delayed or limited. In these places, the old ways persisted and adapted, illustrating the resilience and resourcefulness of human ingenuity. Even in the presence of new technology, ancient traditions held their ground, creating a patchwork of innovation and continuity. The wheel's influence, although incremental, began to echo through the corridors of human endeavor. It fostered a quiet revolution, one that reshaped daily life, not with a flourish but with a gentle, persistent push. The change was not just in the load one could carry or the distance one could travel. It was also in the perception of what lay beyond the horizon, in the gradual unfolding of a world where the possibility of movement began to transcend the immediate and the local. Thus, as we reflect on this period of subtle transformation, we see a world on the cusp of change. The wheel had begun to turn, and with it, the potential for new paths, new connections, and new dreams. It was a time of quiet evolution, where the future beckoned with a whisper rather than a shout, inviting those early societies to imagine what might be possible in a world gently set in motion. Imagine, if you will, a world where the horizon feels impossibly far, where every journey is a daunting endeavor, and the concept of distance is as tangible as the very earth beneath your feet. Before the wheel, such was the nature of our mental maps. The world was a mosaic of localized patches, each community a small universe unto itself. People lived and died within the boundaries of pathways their feet could traverse and their minds could grasp. The idea of faraway places was not just a matter of physical space, but of cognitive space. In ancient times, the contours of one's world were defined more by the rhythm of footsteps than by miles or kilometers. Journeys were measured in days of travel, in the weariness that crept into muscles, in the stories passed from village to village. The wheel, with its simple yet profound capacity to roll, gradually reshaped these mental maps. It expanded the scope of what was possible, turning the once insurmountable into the navigable. The introduction of the wheel didn't merely enable longer journeys, it altered how people conceived of distance. Where once a mountain might have stood as a formidable barrier, the rolling motion of a cart or a wagon could now convey goods and ideas over and around it. This change was not abrupt, nor was it uniform. It spread like ripples on a pond, slowly transforming the mental landscapes of those who encountered it. The wheel allowed for a new kind of imagination, a vision of the world that was broader, more interconnected, and filled with potential. Consider the impact on trade. In a world constrained by foot and beast, trade routes were limited to what could be carried in leather satchels or on sturdy backs. The wheel opened new avenues, not merely by increasing the load one could transport, but by expanding the very notion of what could be traded. Suddenly, exotic goods from distant lands could find their way into local markets, sparking curiosity and conversation. Spices, textiles, metals, each journeyed further and faster, weaving a tapestry of commerce that stretched across regions. This burgeoning trade network did more than enrich economies, it fostered cultural exchange. With goods came ideas, stories, and innovations. The wheel catalyzed a slow but significant cultural shift. Where once communities might have been insular, the influx of new thoughts and technologies began to erode barriers. Languages mingled, art forms blended, and philosophies interwove. The wheel was not just a tool for transport, but a catalyst for connection, linking human imaginations in ways previously unfathomable. The psychological impact of this transformation was profound. As goods and ideas traversed new distances, so too did the human capacity to dream of distant lands. The wheel encouraged a form of speculative thought, a wondering about what lay beyond the next hill, across the next river. To think of faraway places was no longer an exercise in fantasy alone, it became a tangible possibility. The wheel enabled people to conceptualize a world beyond the immediate, to envision voyages that stretched beyond the visible horizon. This shift in perception was subtle yet revolutionary. It paved the way for an expanded worldview, a shift from parochialism to a nascent cosmopolitanism. As the concept of distance evolved, so did the human capacity for empathy and understanding. Other cultures, once abstract notions, became real and relatable through the exchange of goods and stories. The wheel, in its quiet, rolling way, fostered a greater awareness of the human tapestry, the myriad threads that, when woven together, form the fabric of civilization. Yet, It is essential to remember that this transformation was neither uniform nor universal. Not all benefited equally from the wheel's introduction. Some regions, due to terrain or resource scarcity, remained largely untouched by its influence for centuries. The psychological shift it inspired was gradual and often resisted by those for whom the old ways held comfort. But where it did take hold, the wheel indelibly changed how people thought about their world and their place within it. As we reflect on this transformation, let us pause to consider the gentle yet profound power of imagination. The wheel, by expanding physical boundaries, also expanded mental ones. It allowed people to dream bigger, to envisage a world interconnected by paths both real and imagined. In doing so, it laid the groundwork for the world we know today, a world where distance is both a measure of space and a catalyst for connectivity. Thus, the wheel's legacy is not merely one of mechanical innovation, but of mental liberation. It set minds in motion, encouraging exploration not just of lands but of ideas, and in this way it altered the course of human history, one quiet revolution at a time. In the quiet tapestry of history, the wheel's introduction spun an intricate web of change, touching lives with varying degrees of subtlety and force. Yet, like a pebble tossed into a pond, the ripples spread unevenly across the landscape of human existence. It is here, in the examination of who benefited and who did not, that we find a world both unified and divided by this simple, yet revolutionary invention. Imagine, if you will, a landscape where the elites of burgeoning city-states gazed out over their domains, their thoughts turning to the newfound potential the wheel presented. For them, the wheel was not merely a tool of convenience, but a symbol of power and progress. These were the individuals who could afford to harness the wheel's capability, commissioning carts and wagons to transport goods and people across distances that had once seemed insurmountable. Their coffers swelled as trade routes expanded, allowing for the import of exotic materials and the export of local treasures. In contrast, the laborers, the backbone of these early societies, found the wheel to be both a boon and a burden. While it eased the weight of physical toil, it also increased expectations. With the ability to transport heavier loads came the demand for more goods to fill those loads. The wheel, in its silent revolution, whispered promises of progress, but also murmured of increased productivity. For the laborers, the wheel did not so much roll as it did rumble, its potential shadowed by the relentless pace of work. As we shift our gaze from the urban centers to the rustic tranquility of rural life, we find a different story unfolding. In these pastoral settings, the wheel's impact was often less immediate, the transformation more gradual. For rural communities, the wheel was not an immediate harbinger of change. The rhythms of agricultural life, dictated by the seasons and the cycles of planting and harvest, were less susceptible to the wheel's influence. Here, the land itself dictated the pace of life, and the wheel, while useful, did not redefine it. Yet, over time, even these rural enclaves began to feel the wheel's influence. As urban centers grew, and the demand for agricultural produce increased, rural communities found themselves drawn into a larger economic web. The wheel enabled the transport of surplus goods to distant markets, linking rural life to the bustling commerce of cities. This connection, however, was a double-edged sword. While it provided opportunities for trade and economic growth, it also threatened the self-sufficiency that had long defined rural existence. The disparity between those who benefited from the wheel and those who did not is further illustrated in the social and economic stratification that it helped to deepen. In urban settings, the wheel facilitated the growth of a merchant class, individuals who capitalized on the expanded trade routes to amass wealth and influence. This burgeoning middle class found itself navigating a world of new opportunities where the wheel smoothed the path to prosperity. Yet, for many, the wheel remained an emblem of inequality. Those without the means to engage in the new economy found themselves increasingly marginalized. The wheel, in its quiet revolution, underscored the divide between those who could afford to harness its power and those who remained tethered to the old ways, their lives unchanged by the turning of wooden circles. As we reflect on this uneven landscape, it becomes clear that the wheel's legacy is one of both progress and division. It is a testament to human ingenuity, a simple invention that reshaped the contours of civilization. Yet it is also a reminder of the inherent disparities that accompany technological advancement. The wheel did not bring change uniformly. Rather, it highlighted the complex interplay of social, economic, and geographical factors that shape human experience. In the end, the wheel's true gift may lie not in the tangible benefits it bestowed upon the few, but in the way it forced societies to adapt and evolve. It challenged communities to rethink their relationships with distance, labor, and trade, setting in motion a series of changes that would ripple through history. As we ponder the wheel's enduring impact, we are reminded that progress is seldom linear or equitable. The wheel, in its silent turning, invites us to consider the myriad ways in which technology shapes, divides, and ultimately unites the human journey. As we find ourselves contemplating the gradual shift from a world anchored in stationary routines to one slowly set in motion, it is worth pondering how a simple concept like rolling could ripple through the vast tapestry of civilization. The advent of the wheel, though seemingly modest at first, gradually wove itself into the very fabric of daily life, changing not only how we moved, but also how we thought about movement itself. For countless generations, human life was intimately tied to the landscape, with distances felt in the strain of muscles and the rhythm of footsteps. Settlements were planned with the knowledge that travel was an arduous task, requiring time and effort that seldom permitted rapid or frequent journeys. The wheel, however, began to whisper possibilities of a different future. A future where the horizon could be reached with greater ease, where the burdens of carrying and dragging were lessened, if not entirely eliminated. Yet, this transformation was not immediate nor all-encompassing. The wheel's early adoption was selective, shaped by terrain, available materials, and societal need. It did not sweep across the world like a sudden tide, but rather crept in, almost unnoticed at first, subtly altering lives one rotation at a time. In places where the landscape was flat and open, carts and wagons found fertile ground to flourish. Conversely, in rugged terrains or dense forests, the wheel's impact remained limited, allowing traditional methods to persist alongside the new. What is most intriguing about this gradual shift is how quietly it unfolded. To the people living through it, the change was not heralded by grand proclamations or dramatic shifts. Instead, it was woven into the everyday, as gentle and unassuming as the turning of the seasons. Farmers began to notice that their fields seemed to shrink as they traversed them more swiftly. Traders found that familiar routes took less of a toll on their bodies and beasts. Artisans discovered that their goods could reach eager hands in distant villages, expanding the reach of their craft. In many ways, the wheel did not just make movement easier, it redefined the concept of distance itself. What was once a journey measured in days of arduous trekking could now be accomplished in hours. This newfound fluidity of movement began to reshape mental maps, gradually expanding the known world and inviting the curious to explore beyond familiar boundaries. The wheel's influence extended beyond mere physical movement. With easier travel came the exchange of ideas, the mingling of cultures, and the sharing of knowledge. Markets buzzed with goods from far-off lands, and with them came stories, languages, and customs that enriched and diversified human experience. The wheel, in turning, became a quiet catalyst for cultural evolution, fostering connections that transcended local horizons. However, as the wheel set the world in motion, it also highlighted disparities in who could benefit from its promise. In cities and regions where infrastructure developed quickly, the wheel became a symbol of progress and prosperity. Yet in remote areas, where roads were slow to materialize, the advantages of rolling remained tantalizingly out of reach. This unevenness mirrored broader societal divides, with economic and social factors influencing who could afford to embrace this new age of mobility. Reflecting on this period of transformation, it is easy to imagine a world where the wheel's presence was both pervasive and invisible. To those living through this era, the changes it brought might have seemed as natural as the sunrise, as inevitable as the tide. There were no grand revolutions, no sudden leaps forward, just a steady, almost imperceptible shift towards a world where movement became an integral part of daily life. As we widen our lens to consider the broader implications, the wheel's legacy becomes apparent in the way it set the groundwork for future innovations. The principles of rotation and motion that it introduced would eventually lead to more sophisticated machines and technologies, each building upon the foundations laid by those early, humble wheels. In this quiet unfolding of history, we find a lesson in how change often occurs, not in dramatic bursts, but in gentle, persistent nudges. The wheel's story is a reminder that some of the most profound transformations in human history have occurred not with a roar, but with the soft, steady hum of progress. It is a testament to the enduring human spirit, always seeking, always striving to move forward, even when the path is not yet clear. Thus, as we reflect on a world slowly set in motion, we are reminded of the subtle yet powerful forces that shape our civilization. The wheel, in its unassuming way, taught us to look beyond the horizon, to imagine what might be possible when we dare to set things in motion. In the turning of its simple form, we find the echoes of our own journey, ever onward, ever forward, in the quiet, persistent quest for what lies beyond. In the quiet moments of reflection, we find ourselves contemplating the subtle transformations that have rippled through human history. The wheel, a seemingly simple invention, serves as a poignant reminder of how small changes can profoundly alter the tapestry of everyday life. It did not arrive with the thunderous applause of a revolution, but rather tiptoed into existence, weaving itself into the fabric of our daily routines. Consider, if you will, the rhythm of work before the wheel's influence. Tasks were dictated by the arc of the sun, the changing seasons, and the limits of human endurance. Labor was intimate and immediate, a dance of necessity and physical effort. With the advent of the wheel, however, this rhythm began to shift. Loads that once required the strength of many could now be moved with the assistance of a single cart. Distance, once a formidable barrier, gradually shrank, altering the very way people perceived their world. Travel, too, took on a new dimension. Journeys that were once measured in arduous days or weeks began to unfold with greater ease. The wheel turned paths into roads, roads into networks, and networks into the arteries of burgeoning societies. This transformation was not merely physical, it was a shift in perception. The world expanded simultaneously as it contracted, inviting a sense of curiosity about what lay beyond the familiar horizon. Expectations, once rooted in the immediate and the tangible, began to stretch. The wheel allowed for new possibilities, changing not only what could be achieved, but also what could be imagined. It encouraged a broader outlook, fostering connections between distant communities and cultures. The spread of goods, ideas, and practices became more fluid, sowing the seeds of innovation in places far removed from their origins. Yet, for all its impact, the wheel's true power lay not in its novelty, but in its ordinariness. It became a ubiquitous presence, seamlessly integrated into the everyday. In this way, it transformed not merely through grand gestures, but through the quiet accumulation of small, practical changes. It influenced the way fields were plowed, how goods were moved to market, and even how stories were told, as travelers returned with tales from afar. As we reflect on these changes, we see that the wheel did not alter the essence of human experience, but rather expanded its possibilities. It allowed for a reimagining of what was possible within the confines of daily life, encouraging growth and exploration without losing sight of the familiar. The wheel did not define the human journey, but rather accompanied it, rolling steadily alongside as a companion of progress. In the end, what the wheel truly changed was not the nature of work, travel, or expectation, but the potential of each. It whispered of new horizons while keeping the old within reach, a balance of innovation and tradition. It is in this delicate interplay that we find the enduring legacy of the wheel, a testament to how the simplest of inventions can quietly reshape the world, not by altering its core, but by expanding its edges. And so, as we bring our exploration to a close, let us return to the ordinary, to the quiet moments where the wheel's influence is felt most profoundly. It serves as a reminder that change need not be loud or dramatic to be significant. Often, it is in the gentle turning of wheels that the most profound journeys begin,